welcome to Taking the Tradition On. And I need to do a couple of thank yous. So you'll see this beautiful poster behind me. This is a professional Zoom account, proper one. You're on a webinar, and it's Get a Word in Edgeways Festival account. So thank you very much to Get a Word in Edgeways for letting me borrow your Zoom to run Taking the Tradition On. And thank you very much to the Arts Council England. So where all of this mad idea of having a storytelling talk show started is because I got given several boxes of reel-to-reel tapes by Duncan Williamson. So I think most of you on here probably know who Duncan Williamson was. He was a Scottish traveller, a storyteller and a singer who appeared at Whitby Folk Festival many times. He was also my mentor. And so this year I managed to get some crowdfunding and some money from Arts Council England to digitise those tapes with the School of Scottish Studies archive, and then use those tapes to get my digital skills a little bit heightened, because they were minimal before. In my learning curve is just like a rocket taking off at the moment. I still have a long way to go. So I've been learning the digital skills so I can share some of those digitised recordings. But more importantly, it's been a chance for me to really reflect on my apprenticeship with Duncan, because I was a teenager when I met Duncan, and there's lots of things that I'm learning by looking back at my apprenticeship now, and considering what I learned and how he was like, and by having these series of conversations about that whole tradition. So originally I was just going to be doing podcasts, but now we've all discovered what Zoom is. It's quite difficult to get in touch with people individually to actually go and interview them for podcasts. But Zoom is this wonderful medium where I can talk to people and invite all of you to come here, and I can talk to more people because I don't have to edit it, which is fantastic. And although I can do audio editing, video editing might be a bit beyond me. So that's all my blether, all the logistics things done, I think, apart from to give you a little very brief guided tour of Zoom. So down at the bottom, as I've said to some people, there should be a little chat box about here somewhere. If you want to click on that, then a little box will come up. You can write messages that I can read and Malcolm can read. Though he'll be busy talking, so I probably will tell him what's going on. And he can talk to the other people who are here. It is a webinar, so you can see me and you can see Malcolm. I'm gonna give you a big build up in a minute, but obviously here is Malcolm Storey. You will be able to see both of us. We can't see you and we can't hear you. So you are very welcome to be as comfortable as you like, where you like. If you want to slob out on the sofa with a packet of crisps, nobody's going to tell you off for crunching. Nobody's going to tell you off for rustling sweet wrappers. And if you want to do your yoga while you're listening to us, that's absolutely fine. I will at the end open it up for questions and answers, and if you would like to, I'd like to bring people up to actually talk in your voices and to maybe bring your video up so we can see the people who are asking the questions, but I'll only ever do that with your permission. So otherwise feel free to relax in whatever way you like. So the chat goes on all of the time. My goodness, it's 5 o'clock in Australia. Caroline, I am so impressed that you were up at 5 a.m. to come and listen to Malcolm live. You get the biggest brownie points, I think, of the evening. So for the end, if you think of important questions and answers, questions that you want to put on a Q&A, well, I'll actually be looking for questions to pose to Malcolm at the end will be on the Q&A. So there's another little button that's a Q&A. So you can put those up at any time and we will have a look at that at the end. It's going to be about an hour. We probably will run over a little bit because there's always more than we can squeeze into an hour, but we won't run over by too much. So now to the man of the moment. I'm sure everybody here knows who Malcolm Storey, my guest, is. So Malcolm, he told me he wasn't the director. He was one of the directors, though as a guest artist, I seem to get the view very often that he was the director of Whitby Folk Week. And for the time that he was running it, it definitely seemed to be the artistic vision and built Whitby Folk Week in a certain direction over those 25 years and made it a much bigger festival and did an amazing job and created a rather special place and a very special festival. So welcome, Malcolm. I'm finally going to shut up and let you say hello.
Oh, hello.
How are you? Pardon?
I say, can everybody hear me?
I hope so. I think they can, as long as I'm not talking over you. So when did you, even before Whitby Folk Week, when did you get involved with folk? I mean, was it something that you were always involved with? Was it from your parents, or did you suddenly discover it as a teenager?
Well, I listened to the programme as I roved out when I was probably at junior school. That used to be on a Sunday, if I remember rightly, about 6:30, something like that, just for half an hour. People like McCall and whatever were on there, pontificating at times, but not all the time. It was quite good. But it was just because it was on, I suppose. Round about the same time as Journey into Space, but never. But you won't even know what that is. Anyhow, but then as I got older, well, into my teens, I was always attracted by words and music, not just music, and certainly not just noise. The more ballady sort of things and what have you. That said, I was an avid Beatles fan, but then I wasn't. And it would be, well, I think it was probably about 1966 when I really started to get involved with singing and going to folk clubs. So, and of course, I was very lucky because the nearest folk club was the one that the Watersons ran, although at the time that I started going there, they didn't, because at that time Norma was in the West Indies and Rita Jewett was running it and running it very well. But of course, me being me, I soon got my feet wet and off we went. So it was about 1966 when I became fully, if you like, immersed in it, and started learning all the things you have to learn about new relationships, new things. And strangely, most people say they started going to things so they could meet young ladies or vice versa. I started going to the folk club because I wanted to sing. As simple as that. And that's so yes, about 66.
And so how did just a simple desire from singing, wanting to sing, how did you end up so involved in Whitby Folk Week?
Well, I was even when I was in junior school, I was always the organizer. I was the captain of the football team or whatever, you know. And you know, when I left school, even though I'd be 16, 17, I used to run the local, the works fiddle, as it was. It was one of these pools things where you each had a team, and the first team to get to 11 goals, they won the jackpot. But of course, the spin-off for whoever ran it was the fact that you took a cut of whatever money was. It was only a little bit, maybe 10 bob a week or something like that. But 10 bob a week was a lot of money when I was an apprentice. So you know, I did that. I used to run as I got older. I used to run trips to Blackpool and for nothing. I mean, just for a free seat, basically. Because everybody went to Blackpool in those days, over the top, stop off Harry Ramsden's and what have you. Then they moved they opened Harry Ramsden's in Blackpool, didn't they? So I was always organising things, doing things, just enjoyed doing it, you know, and that was it.
So basically, they saw you coming. So basically, they saw you coming.
No, I've always enjoyed, you know, sort of organising things and putting things on, putting things together. Just gets bigger, that's all. And of course, I mean, I was doing a lot of organising and what have you in my job. You know, I mean, that was my job, was to make sure the jobs got done and put the right people on the right jobs and that sort of thing to make sure that you know, we got what we wanted at the end of the day. So you know, that was just another part of what I did, and it just came naturally, I suppose. Oh, I was a milk monitor at one time. I mean, you know, it's everything, isn't it, really, when you think about it?
So I wasn't around in those days. I certainly didn't know what was happening with folk. What was Whitby like when you first started being involved with the organising of it, and what did you want it to be?
Well, when I first got involved, which was 1982, what I've done actually, I've dug out my programmes, and that was the one for 1982, right? Which I don't know why it's showing that way around, but I can't do much about it. And that was the one for 2006, my last year. I think you can see the difference, or some of the difference. In 1982, the first year I was involved, we had 7 venues, all of which, well, some of which were only used on an evening, and some of which were only used during the day. I don't know how many artists we had that particular year. It was already doing singing, dancing, outside, you know, clog and this, well, workshops, a number of workshops, but not a great deal. I would think there'd be probably that first year, I never bothered counting, but probably about 100 things during the week. 2006, when I finished, we had 23 venues, some of which had more than one performance area, and we did 602 events in a week. And on the very last page of the 2006 one, my last program, my last time in charge, the very last page of the bios, it says, late arrivals at the ball. Storyteller Amy Douglas completes our lineup of invited guests. Despite her lack of years, Amy has already been with us many times and will be familiar to regular attendees. So there we are.
Look in there.
Well, I don't know why you were there. I think it's probably, as it sometimes did happen, people got booked late for various reasons. Probably because you weren't around at the time I was booking, you know, or whatever. And then or Mike could bring me and say, why haven't you got Amy this year? Oh, haven't we? Because you know what Mike's like. I mean,
I do, yes, thank you, Mike.
He's not shy coming forward, is it? No.
Well, no, and I have to say it's very nice for young artists to have people to champion them.
Right.
I mean, there's so many things that you have to learn when you're a young performer, whether that's a musician or a singer or a storyteller or anything else. And actually the marketing's quite tricky, and it takes quite a lot of gumption sort of to ring up and say, oh, I'm really good, you know, it's how you approach people and get bookings is quite tricky. And I think, you know, I still find that quite hard. And I think when you're young, having somebody else going, look, I'll just ring him up and say you should be there is really is rather nice. So and now it's really nice because I get to do that for other younger storytellers now and then, and it's I think it's quite good to have a bit of there aren't enough folk and storytelling agents, so if we can do it on behalf of each other, that's quite a nice thing to do.
Well, I think that tends to happen anyhow. I mean,
yeah,
there's not a lot of rivalry, is there really? Right the way through. I mean, you know, you don't get bands slagging off other bands or whatever you do. It's all, everybody works together and sort of thing, and that's one of the things I like about it, to be honest.
It's one of the things I love about it as well. And I think every you know, there's no money in folk music or storytelling. If even is there, it's everybody does it for the love of it, and so you want to see people.
You're not going to finish it with a mansion and a mare, are you?
And so I was there in 2006, but I think I probably went for the first time in about 98. And
it will be.
For me, Whitby Folk Week is a really unique festival, and certainly at that point I hadn't been to a festival that was like that. So there were other folk festivals that had storytelling within them, But at Whitby, storytelling was completely embedded, and it felt that storytelling was just as important as music. It was just as important as singing, and it felt like the concerts were proper Cayleys, and it was singing and storytelling and music all together, which was the way that I had sort of grown up with in sessions with my group of friends who had met through folk festivals. We would all just do what we could, and we would all join in together, and it felt, it had that really sharing feeling and that kind of bouncing off each other that I don't, pardon?
The inclusiveness is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't like that in my experience at other festivals. It was like your story tents here, your singers are in that pub over there, and your concerts are somewhere totally different, and everybody had their little niche within the festival, and people didn't cross over as much.
Yeah.
And was that something that you had seen at other festivals, went, no, I want this to be different, or did it just sort of evolve?
No, I always went, no, I mean, I always, as far as I was concerned, nobody was any better than anybody else when it came, or nobody deserved to be on the stage or influence of people. If they got the talent and they were doing something that people enjoyed, let them get on with it. That was me, you know, and it all right. I mean, there's, I mean, I've said in the past that I booked people that I didn't particularly like, but I knew that other people did, you see. That doesn't include you. but no, I mean, it's just put people out there, and the real thing, when everybody was treated the same, absolutely dead the same. Nobody was treated any differently. You were all looked after, I hope. You know, that was the plan, was to look after everybody, make sure that people felt comfortable and whatever. And it worked, you know. I mean, if you're nice to people, they'll be nice back to you. Some people say I'm not very nice, but that doesn't matter, does it? I'm only not very nice with people who are, for want of a better word, prats. You know?
No, I mean, my experience was definitely that, and still is with Whitby, I mean, they've carried it on as well, is that it is a place where young and new performers can be booked and looked after, and kind of, and then they come back for not very much later on when they've developed and they've got a bit of a better name, because you've already got that relationship, and they've got a very fond relationship with Whitby, and they want to come back. So yeah, and Graham saying, yeah, that was always the way with Whitby. Yeah, and I think it still is, Graham, as well. I mean, it has got a really inclusive feel, and it is a way that everybody comes together. And obviously my interest, there's lots and lots of things that we can talk about with Whitby, and I know that other people want to ask questions about their specialities, and that's absolutely fine. But I'm coming very much to the point of view of having studied with Duncan Williamson, who's a Scottish traveller, and it always seemed that every year there was at least one Scottish traveller tradition bearer, and it was a really strong part of the festival. And those storytellers and singers I didn't really encounter at other folk festivals. And I mean, it's a tradition that I was really lucky that I got to meet Duncan and got to study with him. And obviously Whitby is geographically further north, but it sort of took a little while for that tradition to come in, and then suddenly they were everywhere, and they were kind of celebrated for who they were. But when did you first come in contact with that tradition?
The Scottish one, or
Scottish travellers, and particularly the travelling people?
Probably not much longer after I got started, because I mean, one of the luminaries, if you like, at the club was Ian Manuel, who wasn't a traveller, but I mean, knew travellers, and you sang some of that, you know, some of the songs that he learned from travellers, and of course, some of the early, not the very early nationals, but certainly some of the early nationals, and of course there was always an element of that there. So, and Mike Watterson was another great advocate of the travellers, people like Lizzie Higgins and those sort of people, and Norma was the same. And of course, I mean, for all that they weren't running the club anymore, they were there. Well, Norma wasn't initially, but like Mike was there, and Lal. John, I think he was still around, but he was never a big. it wasn't always full of bonhomie. He was a lovely bloke, but I mean, you know, it was a different type to the others. The others were very gregarious. Well, you know, certainly Mike and Norma were. And Lal was, if you got her in the right mood. but John wasn't. John was the quiet one. He was the one, you know. But I mean, most of them were at some stage in those first couple of years that I was there. Norma came back from the West Indies, and off we went again. And I mean, it was it was lovely actually to because she I think she was only away for about 6 months after I started going to the club. So I mean, I could almost date it from that. But you know, they were great advocates of the traditional singers, and especially the Scottish people, as I say. And so, well, you learned from them. You learned who these people were. You went to listen to them, whatever. There wasn't the stuff that you can get now. Go on the web and listen to people, that sort of thing. But I mean, there were a lot more clubs about. I mean, at one time, I mean, I was going to 5 or 6 clubs a week because I was working away from home. I was going to the Friday night. If I'd work Monday to Friday. I'd go out Monday, come back Friday. I'd go to invariably once the rugby started, which was Mike and Ian and Jill Pidd. They were the sort of leading lights there. I would go there most Fridays when I was around. I always went on a Sunday to the Bluebell. If there were you got concerts on a Saturday sometimes. I mean, wherever I was, there were always. I mean, one of the things I always had in my suitcase was my folk directory, which got all the folk clubs in. But I mean, if I was working somewhere like Rotherham or Sheffield or whatever, I mean, there were places I could nip to on a night. We were only like 20 minutes, half an hour at the most drive away. Have a night at a folk club, come back again, and so give you a chance to try your repertoire out, man. You can get a bit lazy and do the same 3 songs at the clubs one week, and then you 3 new ones the next week. But anyhow, that's by the by.
I'm not sure that's lazy. That's bedding things in.
Well, it is, yeah. Yes. I mean, especially. I mean, obviously, if you go to a club for the first time, you tend to play to your strengths, don't you? I mean, you know which songs suit you best and which you feel most comfortable with, and so those are the ones that you'll sing. But that said, I mean, at one time I had a tremendous repertoire. Really, I did, but just for my own satisfaction, I actually sang 3 songs at the Bluebell for nearly 2 years without repeating myself. Yeah, and you know,
I've never heard you sing, Malcolm.
Well, you're not going to hear me sing now because my throat's buggered. But there are other people. I can point you to my greatest hit, or I can send you a copy of it anyhow. But yeah, it's I don't know. Where do we go from there? It was all about being there and seeing people, and I suppose and knowing. I mean, I know that the first time I booked into Rasheen was at the National, and that was pure chance. That was absolutely happen chance. I mean, I was there for the weekend. I'd seen lots of people. I hadn't seen Rasheen. On the Sunday morning, I went to a thing, and Rasheen shouldn't have been there because she should have been on the flight back to Belfast. But the flight had been put back, so she was there, and I saw her and listened to her singing and asked her to Whitby. You know, simple as that, really. And she said, "Oh, I'll have to think about it." So she went back to Ireland, and after a few days, she rang me up and she said she would love to come across, but could she bring a friend? So I says, "Yeah, why not? Yeah, all right, no problem. Male, female, what sort of accommodation are you going to make?" Oh, it's a female friend of mine. We're quite happy sharing a room, you know, twin room. That'd be fine. Oh, says, has this lady got a name? She says, "Oh, yes, it's Patricia Flynn." I've got 2 for the price of 1. Because I've never heard of Patricia either. Although I had heard of Rosie, because Ken was always getting on to me about these people that they'd seen and what have you, and that had down at the, down in London. Have you heard so and so? Have you heard so and so? And I just remember him. He actually rang me up this time, and he said, "We've just come back from Ireland." He says, "We've just bumped into a singer over there. She is the sexiest thing you've ever seen." And of course, it meant singing wise, because I mean, she really was, wasn't she? I mean, and he said, "Oh," I said, "Well, what's her name?" He says, "Oh, Rosie Stewart." He says, "Book her." He says, "No." He says, "I like you." No, he says, "I don't like you to book it. Get her booked." He says. So I did, because you did what Ken told you sometimes.
And did you actually get to hear? I know what it's like being an organizer. Did you actually then get to hear her sing?
Well, there are some people that you need to, but to be honest, there are certain people like Ken and what have you that, I mean, I suppose Graham Pett, same if he says to me that somebody's a good singer, he wouldn't say, you need to. I mean, we actually went when I was actually running the folk club at one stage, and we were talking, and summertime, obviously, we didn't always get a full audience. Although we usually got 80 or 90 people most weeks, which was blooming good for considering, what things are like now. But anyhow, and it was a time when people couldn't travel quite as easily. So if they were wanting some people perhaps that you wanted to see or get to the club, you'd pick the summertime when travelling was easier. And I can remember us booking Joe Hutton, and then all Joe did was play the tune. It was all he did was play tune. But it didn't matter, because the way we did the evening, Graham was there, lovely singer Graham, there were other floor singers, as we call them, and we just had a lovely evening. The same evening that Joe was on, which just happened chance, the local theatre had for the evening the Spinners. So, but it didn't affect our audience at all, not one bit. In fact, it increased it, because at half time they turned up, they'd done their show and came to see Joe. They're in the stage gear. So, and they stood at the back as good as gold.
You didn't get them to do a floor spot?
No. We actually got them to the club a few years later on a charity night for EFTAs. Yeah, I rang Tony up, and not Tony, Mike up, and I said, Mick up, yes, and I said, it was when Tony, actually there was only 3 of them, because it was when Tony was having an operation or something, so they couldn't tour, and it was summertime. And I said, so I rang Mick up just out of the blue, and I said, do you fancy coming to the club and doing a charity night for EFTAs? Because I knew that, they felt, because they used to go to the national regularly, you see, especially at Sutton Bonington. And he said, how did you get my number? I says, oh, come on. So he says, never mind that. He says, what do you want us to do? I said, I want you to come do the club for now. We'll probably find enough to put you in an hotel for the night, but that's about the best you'll do. But all the money to go to EFTAs. So he says, that sounds all right. I'll ask the other two and see what they say. And they came along. That was it. Smashing. And I've got photos of all sat in the audience, sort of thing. It's lovely, really. Because they were a grand crew. I mean, all right, they got some stick off people, but they did a hell of a lot for folk music, and they did a lot for the society. So I never knocked them, and I used to enjoy some of the silly things they did. I remember him doing it, but turning up at John Howson's do down in Suffolk one year, and that was quite interesting, because by then he'd moved on to the West Country. Anyway, I digress. Oh, that was, because I saw him at Cyril Tony's funeral as well. Anyway, I digress.
Well, to a certain extent, that's what this is about. It's your memories. It's interesting. It's interesting to hear the anecdotes. It's interesting to hear those things. But I am going to pull you back a little bit towards the Travellers, because I'm really interested in you getting the Scottish Travellers to Whitby and what you think that they added and brought to the festival.
Well, they were good at what they did. I mean, that's what you wanted. People who are interesting, which they always were, and who were good performers without being, shall I say, over performers. They lovely singers, or lovely material. I mean, some of them weren't the best singers in the world, but my God, the material that they did was so bloody powerful. It was amazing. And and a lot of things they were singing about, they lived it anyhow. I mean, even then in the 70s, 80s, 90s, I mean, they were still being treated like bloody pariahs and whatever, weren't they? And that sort of thing. And
did you have any trouble at the festival through that? Did you?
No, never, not one iota, never any bother at all. Even though the odd time, whenever the regatta decided they wanted to share the dates with us, they obviously brought a different set of travellers to the town, and there could be problems for the town, not for us, but for the town there could be problems. But from the point of view of the festival, no, there was never anything like that at all, not one little bit. Because people were there to listen to songs, listen to people telling stories, watch people dancing, dance themselves. That's what they were there for. They weren't there to pick arguments. Although they did, but I mean, it was a different sort of arguments that they picked, But it wasn't about things like, why are you bringing travellers
The
here?
33rd verse doesn't go like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I always used to sing it with swords. Oh, well, there you would do it, yeah. I think this is nothing to do with travel. I will come back. I've told this tale all over the bloody world, and it's true. A bloke walked into the office one day, big fella, stumps up to the desk. He says, "Are you Malcolm?" I says, "Yeah." He says, I went to the Metropole last night, and Tony Capstick was on. Oh, I says, "You're going to tell me he was drunk, aren't you?" He says, he was that drunk. He told the same gag twice. I says, "Did he?" He says, "Yeah." I says, "Did you laugh?" He says, "Yeah, both times." And then he just turned around and walked away. So there we are. Anyway, well, next.
Oh dear. I've got a thing on the Q&A, but I'll get Caroline up in a bit. I mean, for me, it was a very distinctive thing that you could really tell when it was a Scottish traveller that the stories were different and the singing was different. And when I first heard Sheila Stewart singing, for example, I mean, I had no idea what to make of her, and I'd just never heard anything like it in my life, and I couldn't work out if I liked it or not. I mean, it was uncomfortable and powerful and incredibly loud and out of tune, and it was like breaking glass.
Come on.
As my I mean, I got used to it later on, but as a first time, it was like being pinned on the wall and going, what the what is that? And it did take a while to figure it out. And obviously, I mean, she did have a voice that could cut through a crowd and cut through a cloud as well. I mean, it was there for getting across a campfire, cutting through the smoke and being heard outside against the wind and everything else. And it worked for that. And it was, but you could hear every word, and you would have that story, and it just went straight into your gut and straight into your bones and kind of bypassed your brain. Okay, Doc wrote, fair enough. Acquired taste, but never out of tune. No, you're right. She was never out of tune, but having never heard her before, it was a very different sort of tune and just an entirely different experience. And I mean, I heard lots of people going, what the bloody hell was that? And I got to a point where I absolutely adored her singing, and certainly it shook me right out of my existence as like an 18, 19-year-old who just had never experienced anything like that. Primal, yes, primal is a very good word, and absolutely Sheila Stewart, the real deal. But I think there's also maybe sometimes a ladder with the traditional singers. Like you were talking about the Spinners getting a lot of people into folk music. Maybe you have to go through the Spinners and Steel Ice Band to various other people till you get a taste. I mean, I hated Fred Jordan when I first heard him as well. I can remember sort of everybody getting us round to come and sit to listen to Fred Jordan at a ceilidh, and they wouldn't tell us who the spot was. So you'd sit down and then Fred would get wheels on and think, oh no. If I'd known, I'd have gone to the bar. And I totally didn't get it. Then 10 years later, I was first, and sitting at the front and drinking it in and lapping it up, and I was understanding the riches that was being offered, but it took a while. Yeah, not someone to mess with, but a heart of gold. That's absolutely Sheila. I would never ever mess with Sheila Stewart.
I mean, if you just mentioned the Spinners again. I mean, they booked all sorts of people, really traditional people for their club in Liverpool. I mean, it was a shining example to a lot of other people that didn't. And people don't really appreciate that. I mean, there are people that know that went on. I mean, Matthew, for a start, will know, that went. I mean, they put terrific people on, but they were people that nobody had ever heard of, but they knew who they were and they knew how good they were, and they were turning people away from the doors, even for people that didn't know. Well, that's people trusting people, isn't it? Basically,
it is. And so I suppose that was the thing, is that you had the trust. But I did wonder kind of what feedback you got kind of the first time you booked somebody like Sheila Stewart, and if your audience was just kind of experienced enough and enough kind of traditional singers that were just going, oh, this is amazing, Sheila's here, or if there was kind of, if you did get the feedback of, who was that?
Well, all I can say is that probably because we are almost like, if you like, a big family, if somebody went to something, it's very rare for people to, a lot of people do come on their own. Once they got there, they knew people. And so if, in fact, they went to see somebody that they hadn't seen before and were a little bit bemused as to how they should take this person, they'd probably ask somebody they knew, have you seen this person before? What do you think of them? And so we never got really to answer those questions, if you like, because other people answered them for us. Whether they answered them the way we'd want them to answer them is another thing coming. But that was probably what happened. I mean, there wasn't a queue a mile long at the office waiting to complain. So and so was on last night and we're all rubbish. That didn't care, It just, and it was nothing to do with my so-called fierce reputation. It was just purely and simple that people thought, well, all right, I didn't like it, but everybody else seemed to. So let's get on with it, sort of thing. I don't have to go to the next concert,
So people are asking if there's any recordings of Sheila available, and there are. Absolutely, listen to the one that Doc Rowe recorded, which is brilliant. So look at that on topic. But also, I mean, and I'll put links up on my Facebook page at the end of it. There's quite a bit of Sheila, I think, in the School of Scottish Studies archive as well, and they've got this fantastic online archive.
I mean, I've got some recordings of her being interviewed by Ray Fisher and things like that, which I'm hoping to make available to people when I get around to it.
That'd be amazing. That would be fantastic.
And it's there, it's safe. It's not as if it's going to disappear. And I mean, I shall make sure. I mean, that's part of what I'm doing now. Now we've got this situation where I can't go anywhere I want to go, otherwise I'll be doing other things. So I'm getting to the point where I am actually getting on top of my archive, which is, some of it's round about here. In front of me, there's God knows how many, about 30,000 photographs, I think. Fortunately, a lot of them, well, almost all of them now are digitized, which is good, because it means I can share them more easily. So there is stuff. I mean, the stuff's there. I mean, I don't know what for instance, we used to go to Folk Hill back, that was one of the, Folk Hill was the first Irish festival I went to back in the 90s. And there was a chap there who recorded everything. Timmy the Tapeworm, they called him, because he had a little reel-to-reel tape recorder, and he used to stick his mic in front of people, and you just, it was a bit unnerving to start with, but you got used to it. As I say, they called him Timmy the Tapeworm. And Jerry says, yeah, Tommy Davis, yeah. What's happened to his stuff? I don't know. It's probably safely stored somewhere. I would think, but I mean, I don't know it. Well, and Jerry will know because he knows everything as that, Jerry. But so you probably will find the stuff. What sort of state it's in is a different thing altogether. I mean, I don't know whether. Oops.
Well, there's certainly lots for Sheila Stewart, and there's also I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but there's a fantastic documentary about her that was done not long before she died.
Yeah.
So Caroline, Kaz, I will send you some links to that, and I'll put some stuff up on my website or my Facebook page as well. If I can find you, Caroline, I'm going to stick you up to ask your question, if that's all right with you. I'm going to unmute you because before we sort of move on, I think your question is sort of right to have now. So I'm going to allow you to talk. And I maybe won't sling you straight up onto camera, because that might be a bit mean. I don't know if you're in your pajamas.
I'm not in my pajamas.
But you already said to me, what shirt are you going to put on? I said, well, I need a shirt, don't know, that's here.
So what's your question, Caroline?
Well, look, I'm just apprenticing on the path for oral storytelling, and I was born in England, but not in those days, and I'm now in Australia. And I just really would love to know what it was about those travelling tellers that, Malcolm, when you said, they were interesting. And I'm just curious to know, what was it about them, or what was it about what they told, or was it how they told, or because, yeah, that wasn't my time, and I would love to know more.
Thanks, Caroline.
Am I supposed to answer that?
Yes.
All right. That's all right.
Yes, please.
You're big and I'm only little at the moment. What was a certain rawness, certain honesty. They were all, a lot of them were, they were natural showmen, showwomen, what have you. It was part and parcel of the way they were brought up. I mean, and they understood a lot more about life than we do in some ways, but they weren't afraid to say it as it was. I mean, although he's not a traveller, I mean, Jock Pett, man, he was. I remember Mike Watson saying to me, "He doesn't take anybody prisoners, does he?" So yes, it was an honesty, I think, and an interesting aspect, and in a way, a throwback to how life was, a simpler life, where you sat around the campfire and you talked and you told stories and you sang and what have you, which attracted me. I've never been a media fan, to be honest. So yeah, I didn't have a problem with it. There were times when I think, what is he talking about, or what is she talking about? But you go and ask them afterwards, and they tell you. You still no wiser. But no, it was just interesting and honest, as I say, and a lot of things in there that you could see. And I say there were naturals when it came to telling the story and keeping people's attention.
Thank you, Caroline. Sorry, I muted you again because we were just getting a bit of feedback off your computer. But I'm unmuting you again. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you. Great. Thank you.
And welcome from Australia at 5:30 in the morning.
Do I get a cheese and onion sarnie for that? Somebody was making them.
You've got to talk to Kaz about that. Kaz is distributing the sandwiches, but hopefully, I think you deserve one.
Whereabouts is she in Australia?
Hang on. Where are you, Caroline?
I am far south coast currently, just near Bermagui.
Say that again.
On the far south coast of New South Wales, about 9 or 10 hours south of Sydney, at a place called Bermagui.
I haven't been down as far as that. We tend to go cut across, although we've done quite a bit around down there because we go every.
I'm going to cut you both off now. You can do travel reminiscences later. We're going to talk about Whitby Folk Week, and we're going to talk about travellers.
Right, go on. All right, miss.
So they did have that interesting edge, and I have to admit that time at Whitby, there were just a lot of that. I suppose I think being the last generation of Scottish traveller tradition bearers that were coming out into the world, and there was a very specific moment when a group of them decided to really share their songs and their stories in a way that I think that site had been possibly more closed before then. And there was Stanley Robertson, Duncan Williamson, Sheila Stewart, Lizzie Higgins, did I say Stanley Robertson? I think I did. And before that, obviously, I think opened the way a little bit was Jeannie Robertson, and I suppose kind of she introduced traveller culture to the world, really. But I don't know if people knew her as a Scottish traveller or just as a folk singer. So, and that was a very special time for me as a young storyteller, because there was and Whitby gave us a place. There was a school where everybody going, you could have your sandwiches and things. Obviously you were holding court there, and outside you could take your mug of tea, and we would certainly sit on a table. There'd be the young storytellers, there'd be me, Nick Hennessy, Shona Lee, people like that, and then there'd be Fred Jordan, Stanley, Duncan, Sheila, and we would shut up and let them listen. And you gave us sort of food money and a bit of travel money if we'd done particularly well, and we're very lucky. But really, that was our payment, was to be able to sit and to spend that time with them and listen to them. And I mean, Kath Little's asking this as well, is that generation seems to have gone, and those last ones who lived the life, and there doesn't really seem to be the next generation of traveller storytellers and singers coming up. And I don't know if you found that, or if you're going, oh no, there's all these people.
Well, it would be difficult for me because it's 15 years since I was involved, so I wouldn't really. I mean, I can only talk of the time that I knew about. I mean, there may well be. I mean, you're probably better talking to people like Pete Shepherd and those sort of people. They know more about it than I do, especially that end of it. But I must admit that we go up to stuff up in Scotland every year. Well, we're not going up this year, are we? But normally we'll have been up twice already. And of course we always got to Killelly at the end of July, which we will really miss because we're great friends with Ian and Norma. But there doesn't seem to be the amount of storytelling, I must admit, that was around. And yeah, it's I don't know. Maybe it's because they've become, so many have become settled, and of course that you don't sit around a campfire in a council house, do you, sort of thing, Yeah.
I don't know. I think a lot of them still do, but I don't know if but there doesn't seem to be the tradition bearers in the same way. And I mean, I've got a bit of a personal feeling that that's to do with the way that songs and stories are very much set within the landscape, and that's part of how you develop your memory, and that's part of how you remember things. And certainly I think that was my experience of learning from Duncan, that there were stories that were connected with certain times of year in certain places, and if you took him to different places in Scotland, you would get different stories. And different things would be sort of clicked in. And I suppose the thing, so now, but the other thing is, do you think that matters? I mean, you ran this enormous festival with all that had a real emphasis on tradition bearers, not just Scottish traveller tradition bearers, but I mean, Whitby was the place that you could go where you would, have the shepherds and the cattlemen and the guy down the pub, the people that had the songs and the stories that maybe didn't go to any of the festivals or particularly do many gigs the rest of the year, but would come to Whitby to pass those on. And a lot of people would say, well, why does it matter? Because they're songs and stories about long ago, and do we really still need them? So why do you think that it's important that we still have those songs and those stories?
Well, we'd be a lot poorer without them, wouldn't we? If you think about it. But anyhow, I mean, we've all got sorry, I can't say that. Lots and lots of us have got this affinity with the past. That we. I mean, I can remember my parents and my grandparents. What's happened here?
So I've put you big because I wanted to hear what you were going to say.
All right, okay. yeah, they you know, say we, you know, you remember grandparents and whatever. I mean, I think back to, you know, my grandparents. Well, certainly the oldest of my grandparents was born in 1880 something or other. He could never remember it was 85 or 87. So, but it was one of the two. I mean, he went to sea when he was about 12. You know, on sailing ships because that's the only place he could get a job. And there were bloody terrible things to be on because by that time steamships had taken over, and the only crews that he got on sailing ships were all lags and you know, mates that could bottle of rum a day sort of thing. So some really, you know, rough. I once asked him if he knew any chances. He went, got bloody time for singing. But there we are. But I mean, so we've got their memories. So when you look at it, I mean, my memories go back 140 years, if you think about it, you know, to my granddad in the 1880s, because I've got his memories from then, when he's told me about things, you know, things that just came up. It wasn't a case of sit down and, you know, but it's something that most people have an interest in. Well, look at this heritage movement or ancestry thing at the moment. It's big business, isn't it? You know, some people get frights, of course, when they find out who they are related to. But there we are. So no, I mean, to be honest, it would be difficult now at Whitby to put the sort of festival on we put on because the people are no longer there. Simple as that. You can put something on that's similar and that people enjoy, but it won't be the same. It can't be the same, you know, because the people are not there. We're just lucky, really, that you lived. I mean, I consider myself lucky. I think we were my generation were the lucky generation. We were the first ones to be able to almost please ourselves, if you like. There was plenty of work. You know, you could walk into one job and walk out of a job and into another one the next day, this sort of thing. You could do most things you wanted to do without any restriction. Despite the old, you know, you can do as you like as long as you do as you're told. But yeah, we were very lucky. I mean, I'm just a bit sad that those times are no longer there, but I enjoyed it, and I hope most of my generation enjoyed it. So where do we go from there? We keep looking back. I mean, you can only look back. You can't look forward. None of us are mind readers, and none of us are fortune. Well, none of us are genuine fortune tellers, are we? Otherwise, we'd be rich. But you know, I mean, it's you can only look back if you want to look at things, and there's some things that I think are terrible. I mean, I think the First World War was terrible. The Second World War was no better, but the First World War was really terrible. But anyhow, we won't go off on that. Well, next.
Well, it's quite a big question from Graham Pert. I mean, this is a huge question, and I'm scrolling down the participants to find them. Graham, where are you? And I'm gonna put you up to talk, if that's okay. Right, Graham, we should be able to hear you.
Hi there. Hello, Malcolm.
Hello.
Unfortunately, I have a question because it goes back a while when you were talking about tradition bearers, and I just said, what is tradition? What is the tradition? I mean, out there to trap you or anything like that. Just a question, and I think you've towards it because we're talking about, you know, we experienced. Oh my!
I can't hear you very well.
Can you hear me? Can you hear?
I can
Not
hear you.
terribly well. So Graham's question is, what is the tradition? But it was obviously sort of based on the conversation that we were having.
What is the? Yeah, you tell me. What is the tradition? I've been watching people debate it for the last 60 years. But there we are.
Likewise.
Yeah.
But, you know, can you now?
Graham, I am really sorry. I'm putting you back on speak because we can't hear you. But if you want to either put in the Q&A or in the chat, elaborate a little bit more about what you wanted to say, and I'll read it to Malcolm. But we can't make out
Can't hear you very well
what you're saying at all. So I think you're right. I mean, it was a bit of a. I mean, your reign at Whitby.
Keep reign all the time.
was a bit of a golden age, and it did have some amazing singers and storytellers that passed the tradition on. I think you're right. Sort of, it is a different festival now, and there's different people running it. Still a fantastic festival.
It could never be the same.
No, and it's you know, when you take on a festival and there's new people running it, you wouldn't necessarily want it to be the same. They need to put their own mark on it. But what are you most proud of having accomplished at Whitby?
I think there's fairly. I think I've said this before to people. You know, putting Willie Scott on a main stage and the man being comfortable.
Yeah, I think that is something to be really proud of.
That for me did it. You know, lovely man, lovely.
And what was it that most got you about it? I mean, because I sort of vaguely know the name, but I never heard Willie Scott. So who was he?
Well, Willie, he was a shepherd, lovely man. He was in his 80s when I first got to know him, he'd be in his early 80s. I think that we had him every year until I got a phone call from him to say, "I'll not be making it this year. I'm afraid I'm in hospital at the moment. Can you give me everybody my apologies?" So I did, and then of course we never saw him again. But he was a lovely singer. I mean, he had a repertoire all of his own in some ways. I mean, but he just stood and sung. He was a bit like Fred, but taller, and spoke with a Scottish accent rather than a Midlands one. Anyway, and I mean, just to have him there on a stage in the theatre, in front of a mic, singing his songs, and people lapping it up, and he felt comfortable. Because I've seen singers being put in that situation at other festivals, and it hasn't worked because they're not comfortable. They haven't felt comfortable, you know, because there's been a rock band on before them, and there's the rock band coming on after them, and this sort of doesn't work, does it? I mean, it's, you know, there are some things that you can do, and some things you can't. But you certainly don't put people in a situation where they feel intimidated in any way. And I mean, Willie would do anything for you. Once he got to know you, once he knew he could trust you, he'd do anything for you. You know, and a lot of other people the same. Fred was the same. You know, what can I do about you? You know, and because but you're never going to see them again. Eh? That like they've gone. I mean, you know, Fred was horses. I mean, you know, what he didn't know about horses, what worth knowing, what working horses, I'm talking about, not pretty race horses, but yes, you know, what he didn't know about ploughing and stuff like that, it just wasn't worth asking the question. And it was always straight, absolutely straight. I mean, some funny stories, but you know, it's for another time, as it were.
Well, I don't know, but well, it depends on the story. But and Graham's saying, yeah, he didn't put the rock band on before and afterwards, but he did put Martin Carthy on first, and the Shepherds finished the concert.
Yes.
But
yeah,
also,
but you see, that was Martin. Martin, if I put Martin in a thing where it was in alphabetical order and they made up the mind on the night who was going first, Martin would go first, so I could sit back, relax, and listen to everybody else, and not worry about what he was going to do when he was on, you know. And because them things work because the people feel comfortable, you know. And the number of, I mean, you know, a number of people have said to me, "You made me do that. I didn't want to do it, but you were doing it," and it did me a real lot of good. Damien Barber's a case in point, I should say. I mean, I put him in the program as Damien Barber and friends, and he says, "Well, who's these friends?" I said, "You better go mix them," you know. And of course, that's where all this stuff started from, was from that, really. And it was just not a throwaway thing. It was a thing to encourage him, because I knew he'd got lots of friends that he could call friends, but he didn't realise they were, you know. And it was great. Young fellow, he was only about 19 at the time.
well, you're getting a lot of respect and a lot of love sort of people sort of saying that your thought programming was exceptional, which I will absolutely agree with. And Graham has got back to us, Paul Graham, who we couldn't hear, saying you have pretty much actually answered his question in lots of ways, you know, experiencing some of those traditional masters and how we were really fortunate to hear those people. And I'm going to get Ken and Peter up, who obviously I think probably know the festival in some ways probably even better than you, because you would have been stuck in the office quite a lot, and they'll have seen
Absolutely,
lots
yes, yeah.
So Ken and Peter, hopefully you can talk. I don't know which one of you we're going to be talking to. Let's try it out.
Right. Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, can you?
It's okay. But this is on behalf of Peter. First of all, when it comes to storytelling, I think Malcolm should be congratulated, because I think it was under when he was the boss, that the great Mick Quinn from South Armagh.
Yeah, that's true, yes.
Were you also responsible for getting John Campbell?
John Campbell, yeah, twice, right, John.
Yeah.
Great thing.
Yeah, two absolutely wonderful storytellers. But the question I was going to ask, I mean, we got a lovely holiday at Whitby for the best part of 30 years. And all
I don't know how you managed that. You couldn't make that one, did you?
That's all down to you, of course, and Judy. But is there any artist who kind of you regret not being able to get to Whitby, who you did try, but unfortunately things never worked out?
There's two, actually.
Yep.
Although in the end, one of them did come to Whitby.
Yeah.
And they're both Irish. One was Frank
Hart. Yeah.
Yeah, he was always away, you see, in August.
Yeah.
And the other one was John Lyons.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody else, I think, I managed to get, you know.
Well, the Lyons family, of course, were there this last year, weren't they?
Yeah.
The younger Lyons family.
Oh, the next generation of Lyons family.
Of course we have, yeah. Well, John came across, what would be about, him and Anne and the kids came across probably about 10 years ago, I think. Maybe not as long as that, I don't know.
More recently, John.
Oh, they've been since. I mean,
yeah.
I had a real long chat with them down in Sidmouth. About, what year would it be? 14, 15, 2014, I think. Really long chat. And then the following year they were at Whitby, which was great, you know.
Yeah.
And the kids are great. I mean, they're wonderful. Yeah. They really are. You know, you feel like we're in Brecon of Fingers, don't you?
That's great, isn't it? When the next generation comes along, when you've booked their father in the past, and then 10, 20 years later, there's the kids coming along. That's great.
Yes.
Yeah, and then it's a great thing for the festival as well to have the next generation coming up.
Right.
Thank you, Ken, and thank you, Peter. And that brings me on to what I wanted to say, really, which is the thing of, I mean, I've been harking back, and obviously I'm really looking at my apprenticeship with Duncan, but also coming to Whitby for me was a big part of my apprenticeship and a really big part of learning as a storyteller and as a performer. And we won't see that generation again. And we've been having some lovely comments on the chat about Tom MacArthur from Ireland, and who else? Jess Smith, of course, and there was another one, Bob Knight. I don't know. I'm quite interested to find out about Bob Knight from Jerry and Riley.
Well, he's a traveller and he's Scottish.
Well, he's somebody that I will definitely look into. But following on from that, I mean, you had this 25 years of curating this fantastic festival of celebrating, getting all the people that you really enjoyed and wanted to listen to. Hopefully, you got to listen to the ones that you really wanted to. And didn't, you can never see anything very much at your own festival, I don't think. But who are the people from that time and the people that are coming up now that you are excited about? Who are the ones that now you will go and listen to in your folk club or your storytelling club that you think actually are taking the tradition on in ways that you're really excited about?
It's a difficult one. Damien, I suppose.
Damien Barber.
Yeah. And we go to the Wilson's Club and not, well, we won't be getting as much as we did because we lost our great friend in Whitby over the winter, Molly Grove. and of course that was one of the reasons we used to go and visit her and then take her up to the club. And they seem to get all the people, you know, that to me are going the right way. I'm terrible with names. I said I was when we were talking the other day. It's what do you call him? Conan. I think he's a lovely lad. I mean, he's and of course, it's always worth listening to Nobles, isn't it? You know, old uns and young uns. And they're probably what I want to listen to, I think. I mean, I enjoy people, well, like Chris Sherman and what a wicked sense of humour he's got. But I mean, he's 50 now. I mean, it's crackers, isn't it? You think about it. I mean, you know, I knew him when he was a bump in his mum's belly. You know? But it's there's not the depth of people that interest me so much. I mean, but I mean, I get enough enjoyment really from it, because the fact that there's not as many folk clubs, not at the moment, is. I mean, it's difficult to sort of, and it's all become, what should we say? Not commercialised, because that's not the right word for it. There's too much pressure in some ways on people. It's because society's changed. I mean, you know, as I said, we were the lucky people. We were the ones that could chuck a job one day and start another one the next. You know, can't do that now. I mean, I changed jobs twice for less money, so I could get a more interesting job. You know, you'd be looked at daft now. I mean, I was probably looked at daft then, but I mean, you know, it's changed. Life's changed. I mean, there was a golden era, without a doubt, from about 1960 through to 1990, early, probably into mid 1990s. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. You know, you could almost do, as I say, whatever you wanted to do. You could be whatever you wanted to be. You ignored the trendsetters, as it were. I've never been a flavour of the month person. You know, so no, there's not many people that I would say, yes, I'm going to turn up for them come hell or high water. There are still some about, without a doubt. But I mean, the younger element, it's difficult because they're having to do that many things that perhaps they don't want to do, but they've got to earn a crust, as it were. And that's a horrible way to be. I mean, in some ways, you know, they probably won't admit that was the way they felt, but it's sad in a way. But let's not end on a sad note. At least we're still here, as I say, right side of grass, as they say around here. And,
true enough. And also, I think there's something to be said for the younger generation needing to become the older generation to have as much to give. I think that's one of the really fantastic things about folk and about storytelling, is that it takes a long time to get good at it, and you can bring more life experience to it as you get older. And I think you maybe are going to be better at it at 60 or 70 or 80 than you are at 16, 17 and 18. It's just the way that it is.
Yeah. I think it's society's become homogenized, hasn't it, really? And so it's the spark isn't always there. It is sometimes, but it's not. I mean, we're all supposed to conform to certain nuances or whatever. If that's what you want to do it. But I mean, I'm fortunate at an age where I don't have to do that. I can do what I feel I want to do, I still can. I can still stand up without having to. Packy Baird showed me that trick years ago. Because if you can stand up without using your hands, you're all right. Most things are still working, he says. Anyway.
Oh, well, I've got just a couple of notes that have come up on the chat here. So just to say, Jerry O'Reilly on this, talking of the evolving tradition, is tradition is a living, evolving thing. It will change and reinvent itself continually. In Ireland, we've seen a huge regeneration in music and singing in the last few years. I'm not always happy with some of the things that the young people do, but I'm delighted to see them engaging in it. I think young people are always going to be a bit like that, because you've got to try things to find out that they don't work, and there was a reason that people were doing them a different way before. So, so we'll see. And another, Packy Byrne, the sausage in the pocket.
All right. Well, actually, I first heard Mick Quinn tell that one, and John Campbell. I've never actually heard Packy tell it. I wouldn't. I'm not sure the sort of audiences that Packy used to get in front of would totally appreciate it at that time, whereas John and Mick could get away with it, couldn't they? No, it's yes, an interesting thing. It's about smuggling sausages, you know.
I don't know that one, but I think I can probably imagine, and I'll get Cass to tell me later, unless you do. I think we probably do need to wrap it up. It's 9:10. So thank you very much for coming, and for everybody else. There is one more thing we've had up on the chat. Doc Rowe just saying that you were the one who invited him to show films and videos, which he doesn't think he would have done. So between you set up the tradition of being able to show the footage of the older singers and storytellers that have been passed on, which is a privilege now. Doc, I would really like to invite you to come and to do that here. And Malcolm, we're going to look forward to you using this time to sort out your photographs and your recordings. And we're hoping that we're all going to be able to now watch those online and enjoy sort of Whitby's past and some of the great people that you have booked over the years. And as I knew would happen, there are so many questions that I still have and answers that I haven't got from you. So, well, I've got your phone number now, so I'll be talking up and asking you. But thank you, everybody who's come to listen and to ask questions and to join in. And thank you very, very much for sharing your memories tonight. And it's been a delight to have you all here. So thank you again to Get a Word in Edgeways, who provided the Zoom, and to the Arts Council of England. Also, just to say that I do this every Tuesday. I have a different guest every Tuesday, 8 o'clock I will be here. So next week, more regulars at Whitby, and I'm sure that Whitby will be mentioned. I'm going to be talking to Bob Pegg and to Mary
great.
Arthur.
I've got questions for Bob.
Well, you can join in and you can write them on the chat, can't you?
I can, yes.
But Mary's going to be here too, Mary MacArthur. So
it's grand.
So there should be 3 of us here next week. And the week after that, I've got Liz Weir, who's fantastic.
I'll have to get a bigger screen.
We'll budge up. We'll all fit in. Don't worry about it. So yes, so thank you very much. I'll be here next week. Also, obviously, Get a Word in Edgeways. The festival itself won't be happening this year, but we are doing.
Well, I was looking forward to that. I've been invited to go there, you know.
We'd love to come in 2021 when it definitely is happening, but we are doing online spoken word concerts. So the next one of those will be Thursday, the 11th of June. It's the second Thursday of the month. And also Blast, which is my storytelling club, has also gone online, and that's the second Friday of the month. As promised, I will go and find a couple of links for Sheila. And Doc, if you could send me the information of your topic record, or I'll Google it, that'd be great. We'll make sure that people can get Sheila Stewart's album as well. I think that's all that I need to say, apart from just thank you very, very, very much. Well done for being a total folk hero and running Whitby for 25 years, and well done to the people who are running it now as well.
If I enjoyed it, I wouldn't have done it. Simple as that.
We all enjoyed it though, and it has made that festival a really special place that continues to be a really special place, different, but it is a fantastic festival, and it's great that it's still going. And I think we're all sad that we're not going to be able to be there this year. So goodbye from Oz, goodbye from everyone in England. Everyone is clapping you. I am clapping you too. Thank you very much, Malcolm. And
thanks for staying with us.
You go and get that pint now.
Yeah. You stay safe and well, and we'll see each other soon.
Good night.